Board of Directors meeting, August 19th, 2021. This meeting is being conducted electronically pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.263 and MCL 15.263A, 1B. At this time, I'd like to do a roll call.
Bear.
Present from the city of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County.
Bogan. Bolton.
Present, City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County.
Brown. Escamilla.
Present, City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County.
Griffin. Gulau. Hess.
Here, Kalamazoo Township, Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
Middleton.
Here, City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County.
Novotny.
Here in the city of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
Owens.
Present, I'm in Gunplain Township, Allegan County, Michigan.
Okay,
Looks like we have Jamari now as well, PJ.
thank you very much. Bogan.
Director Bogan, City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County, great state of Michigan.
Thank you.
Hey, Paul.
Yep.
I saw that Vice Mayor Griffin had raised her hand. Is she on? Can we get
I
some
don't
clarification?
see her on my screen.
Me either. But something that popped up that she had raised her hand. Okay. All right. Unless she's having IT issues earlier this week for the meeting. So, okay, we'll just wait and see if she pops up again. All right, thank you.
At this time, I have a motion to excuse absent members.
This is Director Owens, so moved.
Director Middleton, support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please respond with aye.
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 Thank you.
All right, Mr. Bolton, I think Vice Mayor Griffin is now connected.
Oh, I do see her there.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So next is the adoption of the formal agenda. May I have a motion to approve the formal agenda?
So
I
moved.
think,
Novotny. Oops. Sorry, Patty, go ahead.
no, this is Director Owens. I think you need to include her in the roll call. So
On
she
the roll
can-
call?
Thank you,
Okay.
Patty.
So PJ, if you could include her.
I got it. Commissioner Griffin.
I'm present. I apologize. I am having technical difficulties, but I'm very much here. Thank you. And Kalamazoo.
Thank you.
So should I redo the approval of absent members or no?
Antonio, what do you think?
I would say yes.
Okay. So at this time, if I could have a motion again to approve absent, excuse absent members.
This is Director Owens, so moved.
Director Middleton, support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor, please respond with aye.
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 And now item C, adoption of the formal agenda. Again, have a motion to approve the formal agenda.
Moved by Director Novotny.
Supported by Director Bogan.
Been moved and supported. All in favor, please respond with aye.
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 The minutes were sent out for July 15th. Ahead of time, are there any corrections or comments to the meeting minutes from July 15th? Or any changes, corrections?
Director Escamilla, move to approve.
Director Owens, support.
Been moved and supported. All in favor, please respond with aye.
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 New business. Approval of a recommendation to the city clerk to renew the marijuana business permit renewal application for Green Bay Bronco LLC, doing business as Mint Cannabis. I believe there's a presentation. There was information sent out in the agenda. PJ?
Thank you, Chair Bolton. Yeah, we decided at the, as some of you know, we decided at the executive committee meeting to begin to send out our notes for the cannabis committee so the board could be a little bit more informed as they wanted to be. I will still run through and give you the synopsis so we read it into the public record. This is an adult use retailer renewal. Green Bronco LLC has provided job descriptions and salaries of all the positions in Kalamazoo. They currently have 16 employees paying between $13.50 and $16 an hour. To date, they've hired 34 employees. 11 have been African-American and 4 of those 11 were managers. 13 have been women and 3 are currently managers. Of their 16 employees, 10 are residents of the city of Kalamazoo. Employees who work at the facility each go through training within the company to learn about the industry as a whole. All promotions to date have been internal, with all current managers having been hired as entry-level employees with little or no cannabis business experience. They've made a conscious effort to utilize goods and services of fellow local business owners, which included several food trucks to provide free food to the community, local print shops for marketing materials, and a local shop to provide uniforms and apparel for this and future stores in other parts of the state. Due to COVID, this has been a difficult time to coordinate community outreach, as you all know. This year, they plan to raise money for clothes, toiletries, and other essentials for the homeless and financially struggling residents of the city of Kalamazoo. This will be through a combination of fundraising and donation of time. The Cannabis Committee verified that they not only give social equity opportunities, but are also willing to work with minority businesses. The committee thanked them for looking past financial concerns and valuing the social equity component. Green Bronco LLC is not in default with the city. Green Bronco does not ask applicants if they have been convicted of a crime on their application. They've passed their fire and zoning inspections. This comes to the EDC board with a favorable recommendation for renewal from the Cannabis Committee. Representatives from Green Bronco are here to answer any of your questions, and I would open it up to the board for questions or comments.
Thank you, PJ. Are there any questions from the directors?
This is Director. I don't have a question, but I do want to say that as a member of the Cannabis Committee, their presentation was thorough. I was very impressed with their approach to social equity and the fact that they're feeding the neighborhood just because that's something that they want to do. I thought was pretty special too.
Thank you, Director Owens.
Mhm.
Are there any other director questions or comments? Would the representation from Green Bronco LLC like to say anything?
Sure, if I may. This is Joey Ketchboo. I'm the owner of Green Bronco, Mint Cannabis, doing business in cannabis. I just want to say our first year has been a pleasure working in the city of Kalamazoo. We have a lot of plans for expansion, and we expect to continue to hire as we continue to provide additional services such as delivery, and we start to expand our curbside process as well. We have a property next door, for what it's worth, that we also purchased and hope to redevelop that's currently vacant. And we just really continue to hope to be a part of the Kalamazoo community and grow with the community. That's really all I have for you. I thank you all for your time today.
Thank you. At this time, may I have a motion to approve a recommendation to the city clerk to renew the marijuana business permit renewal application to Green Bay Bronco LLC, doing business as Mint Cannabis?
Director Brown,
Owens,
support.
so moved. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to step on you.
Oh, no worries. I'll support if you recommend.
It was recommended by Director Owens and supported by Director Brown. This requires a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Bear,
Yes.
Bogan,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Escamilla,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Gulau, Hess,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Novotny,
Yes.
Owens.
Yes.
Thank you. That has been moved. Next,
Thank
we have,
you, everybody. Have a good day.
thank you. Next, we have approval of a recommendation to the city clerk to renew the marijuana business permit renewal application for Huntington Valley Ventures, Inc. PJ, information again, please.
Thank you, Chair Bolton. This is also an adult use retailer renewal. Huntington Valley Ventures has provided job descriptions and salaries for all their positions in Kalamazoo. They currently have 5 employees. They promote from within whenever possible. They feel that it helps their sustainability of their values and gives employees a goal to work toward. They provide health insurance and paid days off. HVV is currently closed and planning their build out of their expanded space. When they ramp up after they build out, they hope to hire between 12 and 15 new employees, with a minimum of 70% of these being local Kalamazoo residents and more than 50% being women and minorities. During the time that they were open, they did follow the same social equity and community benefits plan that has been used for Compassionate Care by Design. They are parent company or sister and brother companies. They plan to use the Douglas Community Center, Black and Brown Cannabis and the Black and Brown Cannabis Guild to hold job fairs and post job opportunities locally prior to utilizing online and other methods. They plan Huntington Valley Ventures is not in default with the city. They do not ask about education greater than high school or GED completion, nor do they inquire about prior criminal history. They do not ask on their application if people have been convicted of a crime. They've passed their fire and zoning inspections. It comes to the EDC board with a favorable recommendation for renewal from the Cannabis Committee. Huntington Valley Ventures is here to answer any questions as well. And are there any comments or questions from members of the Cannabis Committee or any other directors?
This is Director Owens, and I'd like to commend and be very thankful that this business has gone through the process it's gone through and seen the financial ramifications of trying to, operate a business in the pandemic. And the fact that they are moving forward, I think, is very commendable. So I'd like to thank them for that. We're happy to have them in Kalamazoo.
Thank you, Director Owens. Are there any other director comments? Would the representative from Huntington Valley Ventures like to say anything?
Good morning. This is Kristen Barrup from Huntington Valley Ventures. I would just like to thank the city of Kalamazoo for allowing us to have conducted business here for the last few years, both as Compassionate Care by Design and Huntington Valley Ventures. We appreciate the city and hope to have lots more years of business here. Thank you.
Thank you also. At this time, may I ask for a motion to approve a recommendation to the city clerk to renew the marijuana business permit renewal application for Huntington Valley Ventures, Inc.
Moved by Director Novotny.
Support
Support by Escamilla.
It's been moved and supported. This also require a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair Bolton. Bear,
Yes.
Bogan,
Yes.
Bolton,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Escamilla,
Yes.
Griffin,
Yes.
Hess,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Novotny,
Yep.
and Owens.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That has been moved and support. Next on the agenda is the 2022 EDC budget presentation that was sent to us to the directors via email. I believe Marcy will present.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Just to let you know, the draft that you received this morning is a draft, and Jamie and Paul and I talked about talked about how we wanted to work on budgets this year for both the EDC and the BRA, and we wanted to give you draft budgets in August to look at and think about, and then we won't ask you to approve a budget until you've had that chance and had discussion and then we'll approve them in September. So this is just to give you an early peek into what we're thinking and recommending and get feedback from you. So if you want to look at just the 702 EDC budget for this morning, that is.
Can you share your?
I will give that a try. Sorry, I haven't done. Yep. Okay. Okay. So this is the 702 Economic Development Corporation budget, and it looks a little different this year, but it's the same few accounts that we usually have for revenues and not a lot of expenses. Is this big enough for everybody, or should I expand it? Or okay.
It's good.
All right. So you regularly have a small amount of interest on investments. We won't see that number for 2021 until the end of the year. Over the last 3 years, it's averaged a little over 1,000, but it was trending down last year. So I've proposed that we budget for $1,000 there. In previous years, the fees you got for doing the bonds for the heritage community and other projects went into reimbursements. It was an accident, so that's why there's nothing there this year or in the budget or the revenues. This year I was able to get it correctly into the miscellaneous revenue slot, so that's what that amount, just slightly over 34,000, is. It's for the Friendship Village project. And so again, looking at how things have going for the past few years, we didn't want to not budget anything, but we also don't know of any projects on the horizon. So we've suggested 20,000 in revenue in that area. I'm going to skip past working capital for a minute. If Antonio is in discussions right now on how marijuana license revenues that come to the city might in some part support the extra work that this board is doing and the extra staff time that is being spent on reviewing applications for renewal and such. If that happens, I think it'll be a little over $68,000 that we would ask for. That number may change. We may not get that for next year. If that number isn't in there, the expenses below will be reduced. We won't, that's supposed to start supporting part of a staff person, basically. And so if that happens, then we would need about 73,000 to support other activities from it's called working capital by the city, but it's the fund balance, the prior year's revenues that you didn't spend that you've been building off of, and we use a little bit of that each year in this fund. And then the last one, the transfer from the Economic Initiative Fund, we talked about that last year also. This is the opportunity to do loans of up to $250,000 for a bigger project, and that would be the EDC would review it and recommend a project to the City Commission for a loan like that. And if the City Commission approved a loan, then the funds would be transferred from the city's Economic Initiative Fund into the EDC, and the EDC would pay out the loan from there. So again, that's an if you need it, the money would be transferred in situation. And then down below, we have our expenses. I have budget, you regularly pay about 20% of Antonio Mitchell's salary. That's not it, but that's what you were doing. That's what we budgeted for last year, about 20% of the cost of the one person that was working with you. This year, I've bumped it up by another full-time employee. the equivalent of that, so that we could have more staff spending more time on the activities of this commission. And then, so that would be just under 116,000 for personnel costs for next year. And again, if anything needs to change on that with respect to getting some more revenue during the fiscal year, we would reduce the staff time on that. Then a pretty standard, giving you some money for office supplies, which aren't really ever used, and some postage in case a mailing is needed for anything. We do have education and training. That would be to cover training for either to city staff members, or if something came up that we wanted all board members to attend. We have a corresponding loan expense. If, again, the EIF loans were approved by both this board and the city commission, then they would be taken from there. Outside contractual services for 30,000. Last year we budgeted 20,000 there, and we haven't really done anything with it. You guys have been so busy, but this is for if you want to do some strategic planning next year, or any other things that come up that you want to look into. You don't have to spend that, but just trying to give you a little freedom to have something to do. And if you have a project you want to focus on and you think about it over the next few weeks, let Paul know, and we can be more specific about what you're planning to do in this budget. Advertising is if you want to do, again, some, if you need any signs or advertising of different projects or opening event, ribbon cuttings, that kind of thing. If you want to do some branding work and just get more knowledge about what the EDC does for the city out, you have that ability to do that. Administrative fees are the costs that the city charges for some overhead things. It's a very small portion based on the low amount of activity that runs through this fund. The memberships and dues, if there are some memberships in like the community economic development organizations, things like that, we haven't really used them, but it's there in case it comes up. And subscriptions, if there are any online services that would come up. We used to do something from there when the previous economic development director worked for the city, and we haven't really used it, but I'm hesitant to just completely zero it out at this time. So with this proposed budget, your total expenses would be $662,640, and your revenue is set up to equal that. It is slightly more than the adopted budget for 2021, but again, that's for having an additional staff person to do some work for all that you're doing now. Any questions?
This is Director Bolton.
Yes.
Is there any time frame on when we would know if Antonio is going to get it approved for us to see those fees for the?
I'm hoping that we'll hear something a little more definitive in the next month. We will definitely have a better idea before the end of the year. So if we just find out that if for any reason we didn't receive it, we would know by the end of the year and be able to come back and do a budget adjustment for approval. Even if it was January, we can make that change so that it's formally recognized in your budget that you know that we're not going to be going forward with the expanded expenses.
Thank you. That answered my question. Thank you. Are there any other questions by the directors?
This is Director Owens. I'm just curious, the 500,000 that we have available to give up to $250,000 loans, is there interest charged on those, or how does that work?
There would be interest charged on those, and there are requirements for, number of jobs added, and there are some other strings attached to it. So this board we haven't done an EIF loan since I've been here, but some of the bigger projects in the past 10 years have had some in there. I can look up the requirements for that program and have Paul share them with you so you know more about that for next month.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Can I give
It's
some
good to know
feedback?
moving forward. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Antonio. Please
Yes.
give some feedback about what
So-
I just said you
Paul,
would figure
Paul
out.
gave me a heads up this may be asked. So you must have talked to Patty. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a, similar to what we did with our business development fund, we put together a outline of what the program is. We have to update a official outline of what the loan program is, not only to present to the EDC board for approval to make sure everyone understands what we're going to be using those dollars for loan funding in the future, like 2022. But then we'll have that, once that's approved, then we'll get that put on our website as well, because that needs to be outlined and shared with the public of this other economic development tool that can be used. One thing we want to do though with that funding is we, in the future, we want to be more specific in the designated areas where we want those dollars used and utilized. But we'll talk to the EDC board about that as well.
Thank you, Antonio. Are there any other director questions? Again, this was an information presentation today. There's no vote taking place. We will again look for a vote next month. If there are not any additional questions, we will move on to old business. Is there any old business?
There's no old business, Chair Bolton.
Are there any communications and announcements?
I don't have any unless members of the board do.
Hey, Paul, this is Rich. Just wanted to jump in here real quick. I think Director Brown joined after we did roll call, and he did vote and made a motion. So you might want to have a motion to reflect that the minutes include Director Brown as present.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, everybody.
So again, if I could go back, well, should we do a new roll call then, Rich, or just go back and do another motion to excuse absent members?
No, you can make a motion to, someone can make a motion to include Director Brown in the roll call as present member.
Okay. Thank you. If I may have a motion to include Director Brown.
Director Middleton, so moved to include Director Brown as present.
Support by Director Novotny.
Been moved and supported. If I may have a vote of all in favor, please respond with aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And thank you, Attorney. Moving on to item, was there another question? Moving on, are there any directors, excuse me, any citizen comments? I'm sorry.
There are no citizen comments at this time.
Thank you. Are there any directors' comments? Seeing that there are not any, we are officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
I believe for the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, are we going to have Vice Chair Novotny chair that meeting for us today?
Kevin, what do you think?
Chair Hess, are you going to do that?
Yes, I've got my assistant here with me.
All right, I'm happy to give it a go.
All right, Director Novotny or Vice Chair Novotny, whenever you're ready to get started, you can open the meeting.
All right. Like to call to order the regular meeting of the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority for Thursday, August 19th, 2021. This meeting is being conducted electronically pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, MCL 15.263 and MCL 15263A1B. Jamie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. And if you'll also state the city that you're located in right now. We will start with Director Bear.
I'm here from the city of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
Director Bogan.
Present, City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County, great state of Michigan.
Director Bolton.
Present, City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County, State of Michigan.
Director Brown.
Present, City of Portage, County of Kalamazoo, State of Michigan.
Director Escamilla.
Present, City of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County.
Vice Mayor Griffin. Director Goulart. Chair Hess.
Here, Kalamazoo County, Kalamazoo Township, Michigan.
Director Middleton.
Here in the city of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
Vice Chair Novotny.
Present in the city of Kalamazoo, Kalamazoo County, Michigan.
And Director Owens.
Present from Gunplain Township in Allegan County, Michigan.
All right. May I have a motion to excuse absent members, please?
Director Owens, so moved.
Director Hess, support.
All right, motion by Director Owens and a second by Director Hess. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes and the absent members are excused. Next up, we have the adoption of the formal agenda. Are there any changes that directors would like to propose? Seeing none, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Director Bogan, so moved.
Director Bogan, support.
Great. We have a motion by Director Bolton and a second by Director Bogan. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion passes and the agenda is approved. We are now on to item D, which is the approval of meeting minutes from July 15th, 2021. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Director Escamilla, so moved.
Director Brown, support.
All right, we have a motion by Director Escamilla, a second by Director Brown. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion passes, minutes are approved. We are on to new business. We have 4 items to talk through this morning. The first is the approval of the First Amendment to the redevelopment and purchase agreement between Harbor Farms Real Estate LLC and the BRA for the 3-acre parcel located in Davis Creek Business Park. Do we have a staff presentation for this item?
Yes, I'll be giving a short presentation along with Attorney Cherry. And then we also have Mr. Ward with Harbor Farms Real Estate here today, in case you have any questions for him as well. Just to begin with, as you all know, we're talking about the Davis Creek Business Park, which was the former part of the former Lakeside Refinery site that both the city and the BRA now own jointly. And one of the first developments that went into the business park a couple of years back was Harbor Farms, who made a approximately $5 million investment into a project there. They built a 33,000 square foot medical marijuana facility to cultivate and process cannabis there. And they were able to add, I think at the time, the estimate was about 20 full-time jobs. And Mr. Ward might be able to speak a little bit more into the employment opportunities they've been able to offer because of this development. At the time in 2018, when the BRA entered into this agreement with Harbor Farms, there was an option to purchase an additional 3 acres. That's directly to the west of where their existing facility is located. And the purchase price there was based on a $25,000 per acre price. And so for the 3 acres that they're looking to purchase, that's $75,000 in purchase price. And the new development that they're putting in there is another capital investment of around $5 million. There will have a similar building at around 30,000 square feet. And they're hoping to increase their jobs to right around 39 full-time jobs with this investment. And so what we're looking for today is an update, or an amendment to their existing redevelopment and purchase agreement that basically states what they're planning to do with the additional 3 acres. And then we'll have the city commission will also have to approve the amendment, and then we can move into closing on that property, dividing the property and then selling that to Harbor Farms. I'll open it up, Attorney Cherry, if there's anything that you want to add.
Not really, Jamie. I think you handled or covered pretty much everything. The only thing is, in committees, people might know that we were working with Mr. Ward to clear up some zoning issues. I believe those have been cleared up, and we are ready to go to proceed to approval, and then subsequent to that, closing. So.
All right, do we have any questions for either staff or the Harbor Farms representative at this time? Okay, not hearing any. So the next thing we would typically do is look for an action or a recommendation for a motion to approve the First Amendment to the redevelopment and purchase agreement between Harbor Farms Real Estate and the BRA for the 3-acre parcel in the Davis Creek Business Park.
This is Director Owens, so moved.
Director Brown, support.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Motion by Director Owens and a second by Director Brown. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, this requires a roll call vote. So Jamie, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Bear.
Yes.
Bogan.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Escamilla.
Yes.
I don't see Vice Mayor Griffin. Chair Hess.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Novotny.
Yes.
And Owens.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Thank you. The
Thank
next
you
item-
all very much. We're excited to build out and create a bunch more jobs. Just to be clear, we have 41 jobs currently, which is twice as many as we anticipated in the build out. So if that were the case, we could significantly add more jobs than we anticipated.
Thank you for continuing to reinvest in the community.
Thank you very much. Take care.
If I could,
Go ahead, Jamie.
I was gonna say, if I could quickly, Mr. Ward, we'll be in touch, as I mentioned, because the business park is jointly owned. I'll be getting this onto the next city commission meeting for their approval, and then we'll reconnect on a schedule for closing. So thank you for
Could
your
you
patience.
just, is there an estimation of how long that would take?
We should be able to get on to the first city commission meeting at the beginning of September. At the same time, I will be putting in the application for the the property division, land division application. And so, if we could probably target something like the end of September for a closing date.
Okay,
And we'll be working with Attorney Cherry and his firm from our end. And so then he can reconnect with your staff or legal counsel, whoever you're using for that closing.
okay. We're just gonna run into winter real quick, so it's gonna just delay the project if anything were to be pushed any further.
Yeah.
But I appreciate it. And we look forward to building out.
Yeah, Jamie, I just, as far as we're probably gonna have to go this is a property transfer approval, so it's gonna have to go to 2 meetings with the city commissioners. So just so you know, it's not just one.
Thank you for that process.
Yep. So it probably closing would be most likely. We can probably expedite closing after the approval, but you know, it's going to be probably closer to the end of September, if not early October. So.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to move us on to the next item. That's okay with everyone. The next item that we have is the approval of a consent to enter and statement of disclaimer between the BRA and the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Eagle, to conduct an environmental assessment at 501 Northwest Nidge Avenue and authorize the CPED director to sign. I believe we have a presentation on this item as well.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Novotny. So this is for work on the parcel that the BRA owns at 501 Northwest Nidge. So earlier this year in March, the BRA accepted a proposal from WLP Executive Protection, and they have a sort of phased redevelopment plan for the building there at 501. We knew from some of our initial due diligence that there had been leaking underground storage tanks at the property. We had some assessment done to get a sense of whether the tanks were still there, and we believe them to be, removed from the ground. But we also, don't have a lot of information or sampling on what's been left or what's, still in the ground there, and any of the potential vapor issues that could be something that has to be addressed by the next owner if they're going to start using that building and having people in that building. And then with WLP and some of their plans, they have some addition to the building. So that would be moving out into some of the other paved areas, perhaps more toward the direction of the initial or the original underground storage tanks. And so with Envirologic's help and Mr. Sedgwick's help, we set up a meeting a couple of months ago to meet with Eagle to see what type of funding they might have to help with some of the assessment that we feel needs to be done out there. And so they were open to that. This is going to be a very similar agreement to what the BRA is doing with 508 Harrison and River Caddis. It's dollars that Eagle has and will then do direct consulting or a direct contract with their consultant, but then be providing that information that they receive back to the BRA and to the developer to help, their transaction and their planning for the site there. I know that Envirologic has been working on a scope of work for that project. And so I'll let David speak to that in just a moment. What the board needs to approve today is being able to give Eagle and their consultant access to the site. And so we gave them up to 24 months, knowing that they want to do 4 quarters of sampling. And by the time we get started, and if we have anything follow up, we thought 24 months would cover it. And then they also have their sort of standard boilerplate disclaimer that they need the property owner to sign. I did have Clyde Robinson in the attorney's office review both documents. He had no issues with them. He did ask for that termination, that 24-month termination detail, and that's what you have in front of you today. So, David, is there anything that you'd like to add or speak a little bit to the scope and how much sampling and the timeline that we see out here?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. We are approaching this in a phased approach. consistent with Eagle's guidelines, which came out since the authority acquired the property. So that's part of the reason for the change. So we'll be doing some groundwater sampling and soil sampling, and then we'll go inside the building and collect soil gas, samples of the air underneath the building. At any time when we get sort of good results, that would be enough for us to stop and argue that there's no need for any systems in the building to protect the occupants. If that's the case, that'll be good. Money would, we wouldn't need to spend all the money that's assigned to this project. If, however, the results are not favorable, this scope of work takes us all the way through a preliminary design of a vapor mitigation system. And there's kind of a soft commitment by Eagle to continue the funding into full design and construction of the system, should it be needed. I think one of the main things we're going to try to figure out is working with the developers on where they might consider building additions and making sure that those areas, the direction that they want to build out, is a safe area to go. So we're trying to project many years into the future and make this environmental work sustain what they want to do for the long term. Happy to answer questions.
I was just going to quickly note, I didn't mention this, but Envirologic is one of the pre-qualified consultants through Eagle. They have a number of them. It was PMN Environmental who's doing the River Caddis site. And so it just worked out with Envirologic having some familiarity in this site and working with the BRA already, that Eagle felt comfortable and felt like it was appropriate to use them for the assessment work. So we'll also have someone local here doing that work and providing us with the data and information as it comes out. Yeah, we're happy to take any questions.
This is Director Owens. I'm just curious. I got a grant from the state that had to go to the city and then was dispersed to the developer, which is the company I work for the vapor barrier. Is that grant still out there? To your knowledge, Dave?
There's multiple programs for grants. Do you know specifically which one? I guess the answer is yes, they're all out there. They run through funding cycles. So depending which program it is, it's active for the year or you're waiting till the next fiscal year.
All right, thanks.
Do we have any other questions or comments for staff or for David further on this item? Okay, without any more questions or discussions, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this action. Is there anyone prepared to make that motion?
This is Director Owens, so moved.
Director Bogan, support.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Owens, a second by Director Bogan. Any further discussion on this item? Without any further discussion, Jamie, can you call roll?
Yes. Bear.
Yes.
Bogan.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Escamilla.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Novotny.
Yes.
Owens.
Yes.
And then I'll just add, similar to the action that was done with the EDC, Attorney Cherry, do you think we should make a motion to recognize Vice Mayor Griffin in the role?
Yes.
This is Director Hess. I'd like to entertain a motion to add Vice Mayor Griffin to the minutes of this meeting.
Director Bolton, support.
We have a motion and support. I think we can do this by asking all to say yes to that item.
Yes.
We have,
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we are on to our next item, which is the consideration of a recommendation that the BRA approves the reimbursement request for eligible activities incurred for the project at 4200 and 4233 Davis Creek Court. And I think we have staff presenting on this one as well.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair Novotny. I have just a short presentation. You saw some of the information in your agenda packet. This is a project that the BRA and the City Commission added to the Fifth Amendment to the revised Brownfield Redevelopment Plan in Chapter 52 at that time. And the agreement here was with Schupan and Sons, who purchased 2 parcels from the BRA that were adjacent to and kind of landlocked. So it made a lot of sense that they wanted to expand and that they could obtain these parcels. And then within that agreement, the BRA had committed up to $800,000 for local only TIF for approved eligible activities. And so just a couple of months ago, Schupan was able to submit their reimbursement request to us. They had eligible activities that qualified for reimbursement for a number of items associated with their new construction or expansion project there. They were able to expand approximately 40,000 square feet to their existing building. And to do that, they incurred just over $900,000 in eligible activities. Those included things like landscaping and site improvements to parking areas and within the public right-of-way, construction of a new stormwater management system. They had some due care costs, BEA, some response activities, public infrastructure, some demolition of a building on the site there, some site preparation. And then they also went ahead and had an Act 381 work plan approved that they are able to do some. So now the BRA is able to do some school tax capture and then reimburse them and make them whole for all of their eligible activities. David, is there anything else you want to add on this one? I know EnviroLogic was involved in putting this one together.
Well, I think you covered it pretty well. Nothing I can add that I can think of.
Any questions from the board?
All right, without any questions coming up, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the reimbursement for the eligible activities incurred for the project at 4200 and 4233 Davis Creek Court.
Director Escamilla, so moved.
Director Bear, support.
Great. We have a motion by Director Escamilla, a second by Director Bear. Any further discussion? All right. Jamie, if you could, please call the roll.
Yes. Bear.
Yes.
Bogan.
Yes.
Bolton.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Escamilla.
Yes.
Griffin.
Yes.
Hess.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Novotny.
Yes.
And Owens.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. We are to our last item of new business, which is a presentation by staff on the draft budgets for Fund 709 and 243 for next fiscal year. We don't need to take any action on this item by the board. So Marcy, if you'd like to take it from here.
Yes, thank you. Hello again, everybody. First, I want to start off with some slides that Jamie prepared to give a better visual of how the budget for the BRA is breaking down this year.
Marcy, do you want me to jump in here a little bit? I think my internet's
Absolutely.
okay. I had asked Marcy to cover this if I wasn't able to connect this morning. And I'll let Marcy go over the Excel spreadsheets that we sent earlier this morning. But I just wanted to give some snapshots and then talk about in some of these categories, what type of work the staff thinks could be done next year. And then just so you all know, our plan here after getting some feedback this morning is to bring some of these ideas to the Projects and Finance Committee next month and sort of get their direction on some of the priorities and some of the work that we can accomplish next year. And that'll line up with our budget, and then we'll have a final budget for you all to approve at next month's meeting. So for Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, it's really two budgets and two funds that we're working out of. We have the 709 fund, which is our sort of main revenues and expenses. And then the local Brownfield Revolving Fund, or LBRF, has a second separate fund, which is 243, and we'll cover that in the next slide. So this one's a little bit busy. We have more dollars coming into and out of this fund, but I just, like as a snapshot, wanted to show you our revenues are, 3/4 the tax increment revenues that we that the BRA takes in for, I think we're getting close to probably 30, between 25 and 30 projects that are capturing for all sorts of different reimbursement. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. We have some dollars that come in from grants and loans. So it's either, those right now are all Eagle or DEQ. So we have one project paying back an Eagle loan, and we have two grants that'll continue into 2022, but we'll be wrapping up in 2022. And so that's, just less than 10% of the budget in terms of revenues. We have a projection for land sales. So we added up some of the purchase agreements that we have that we think might close in 2022. This is almost entirely the 508 Harrison property, but so if that one doesn't close, we could have a big swing in the dollars coming in for this line item. But overall, 17% is what we're estimating for revenues from land sales next year. We have a very, very small amount of interest, and then we have a very small amount in fees and miscellaneous. And these are things, mostly it's brownfield application or brownfield plan fees. I think this past year we had kind of those sporadic miscellaneous fees. We did get, the BRA did get some money for an easement to Consumers Energy. So things like that kind of go into that category. In terms of expenses, again, the revenues that we're taking in for tax increment financing, we're also then paying those out for the most part to our developers. Some of those funds are still coming back to the BRA for expenses they had into projects. And then we have set aside a couple of categories. Environmental is about 4%, but we're thinking about, this is some dollars for due diligence or due care that the BRA could use on any properties. So that could be some of your own properties. If you're taking in properties and have due diligence you have to do, or if you want to be able to use those dollars to help other entities acquire properties you own, or even just help other brownfield properties in the city, as long as they qualify as a brownfield and as qualified property under the statute. Marcy will go into more of like the admin fee, which is that overhead or cost allocation for city services that the BRA pays. We have a small amount of money set aside for property maintenance, like plowing and mowing. A good chunk of our budget is for contractual services. So that's having a brownfield consultant, and we have money set aside in case we need outside legal services. A small amount for operating supplies, including any advertising or marketing, public noticing that we do for brownfield plans, et cetera. We have our grant and loan payments, so monies that we're taking in from the state or from developers, and then making those grant and loan payments. That goes through the budget there. It's about 8%. We have set aside some dollars for specific due care activities we think are going to need to be ongoing in 2022 for 4 properties that the Brownfield Authority currently owns. So we have, and Marcy will be able to show you the dollars that we've set aside and we've estimated that we think we'll need for 2022. We have some debt payments, and Marcy can talk a little bit more about what we pay on that. And then we have this 5% infrastructure bucket in the budget. It's sort of the balance of revenues coming in, and it's an area where we know oftentimes there's infrastructure needs on properties, and it's something that the BRA can fund if it's a property in a brownfield plan. And so we've gone ahead and put some dollars in that line item, though I'd say that's the one that we probably sort of have the least idea specifically of what we would spend that on. And it's often the category that we just don't spend unless a need comes up in the year.
Okay, well, I'm going to switch to the line item description of this budget before we move on to Fund 243. So, as Jamie said, the bulk of the revenue in this fund does come from tax capture, and it all goes into one account, but we break it down into 3 categories: the amount that we capture that will be paid out to developers, and the amount that is captured to reimburse BRA expenses. Under all of our current plans, this money starts coming to the BRA after the developer has been fully reimbursed. I think over the next few years, we're switching to a more joint reimbursement schedule on newer plans, or we're working towards that so that in the future, BRA will be getting some of their expenses during the same years as developers, but all existing plans, we come last. And then there's also tax capture that is used to repay the debt for ramp 3, parking ramp 3. But
Marcy,
we worked, yep.
Not to cut you off, I just wanted to
No.
mention that if we look at 2021 and then 2022, we're anticipating a much more significant increase in tax capture, only because we have some really big projects that have come online. I know we just had the Exchange building, and that one I think is going to increase now that it'll have been, fully completed. So that's where we're our estimate is going up quite a bit this year.
Yes, with new projects coming on online. Also, I'd like to say the year-to-date revenues received, that is very low right now, even compared to what our 2021 budget is, but we get 80% of our revenues in the last 4 months of the year. So we are on track. We're not behind on revenue payments into this fund for 2021. We collect a full year of taxes and then we pay it out to developers. So we don't front any money or try to say, well, we've received this to date and pay that out at a specific time. That's why the shift to the July reimbursement schedule happened back in, I want to say 2018, so that we have received all revenues and then we pay out to developers. We worked with the assessor's office to get a good projection for what we might receive in 2022. And so that is going to be our larger number. And I should have added that up. I apologize. So we're looking at $1.7 million or so that we'll receive in reimbursement. A bulk of that will be paid out to developers, and to our debt obligations, but there will be money coming back to the BRA that will continue to add to the fund balance in this fund and cover our operating expenses for the year too. So then the other areas, we have again a small amount of interest. That number did dip again in 2020, so I've adjusted it to about 5,000 based on the trends of the last 3 years. We have a small amount of loan interest from, I'm not 100% sure, I think it might be from our one loan principal payment. Yep, so 600 East Michigan has an Eagle loan. They got both a grant and a loan when that project started. And so they have made a payment this year. And we'll be getting, we'll be paying that out to the state in a little bit. The miscellaneous revenues are for, like Jamie said, application fees for brownfield plans, if we have any easement fees, things like that. Sale of fixed assets would be if we sell any land, and according to Jamie, we've budgeted that at 400,000 for next year. We will have, this is my prediction of how much will be left on the state grant for 615 Kalamazoo and the grant for Harrison Circle. If we pay out more of those this year, those amounts would be lower and their corresponding expenses would be lower. And then our personnel costs will be about 112,000 for next year is what I've proposed. This is 1.5, it's the equivalent of 1.5 full-time employees. It is about half of Jamie. No, it's a little bit more than half of Jamie, and it's about a quarter of my time and Beth's time spent on brownfield tasks. That can be adjusted if needed, but that's kind of around where we are right now for what we're proposing for personnel costs. And then keeping things in line with current spending for office supplies and operating supplies, that's just going to be minimal costs. Outside contractual services, we have kept at $125,000. We have the contract with EnviroLogic to pay for their time advising the BRA on different items. And also, like Jamie said, if we do need to have outside legal services. Advertising, I believe that Jamie would like to have the option to do a request for proposals on a piece of land, at least one project next year. So the board would work to seek a developer for one of the parcels owned by the BRA. And based on the 140 South Edwards RFP that we were assisted by the state earlier this year, trying to build in money for doing any architectural drawings or preparing materials for marketing a property. And 30,000 is a guess, maybe it will be enough for two, but we just wanted to have some money there to take on that work so that another project could be started. It's been a little while since we've had a full request for proposals. 501 Westnedge was last year, I believe, right? And so grounds maintenance is for mowing and sidewalk clearing of various properties that the BRA is in control of. The admin fees, again, based on the cost allocation plan that the city adopts. So based on activity in this fund writes more checks, has more staff time, has more money flowing through it. So it has a higher cost than the EDC does. The environmental studies is if any environmental assessments are needed, either for something that the BRA is working on, or you have the option to use those funds to help with a project that maybe isn't able to, a smaller developer who maybe the testing is an obstacle towards getting started. Those would be reimbursable costs if a brownfield plan develops. Environmental remediation, if there's anything that's for properties that aren't broken out below, needed for, it says environmental remediation, but this is more of a due care costs area, not completely fixing, but maintaining our due care obligations. The TIF reimbursements to developers, I think it'll be about 1.5 million next year. And so I have not correctly predicted this amount yet, but it was 1.2 million this year. And there are just more projects coming online and increasing their capture each year. And then infrastructure, like Jamie said, is money that could be used. We would check all of our revenue assumptions before recommending spending a lot out of this area. And also, just as we talk about putting a lot of money in some of these areas, I want you to remember that you do have a purchasing policy that staff won't do any purchases over 50,000 without an approval from this board. And Jamie will come to you and say, hey, what do you think about doing this before she moves forward with anything big in those areas? And the transfer to the debt fund is for ramp 3, and it's usually a little bit less than the capture taken in on the project according to the payment schedule for that. 433 Ampersea, the board has approved spending a fair amount of money on engagement and planning for that piece of property over the last several years. And actually the 25,000 would be an amount we think would be necessary for some final cleanup, due care type costs. So you want to talk about that a little bit, Jamie?
I was just going to mention that both Ampersea, or I guess Ampersea, Davis Creek, Performance Paper, and Panelite are all 4 parcels owned by the BRA that are kind of called out on this budget, because we do think we're going to need some due care dollars, or at least we want to have that available if needed. Ampersea, we have had, we've been looking at the ground there. I think that we could look at some city dollars to match, but we wanted to have some money in case we have any due care or exposure kind of stuff we want to take care of there. And then sort of similar with Davis Creek and Performance Paper, trying to sell off different parcels. We wanted to have some dollars available if we need to change, fencing or signage or anything out at those sites. And then Panelite in particular, because of the remedy and work that EPA and the trust is doing out there. We're talking to other city departments on whether we can cost share a consultant or someone to be looking out for the interests of the city and the BRA as owners at Panelite, and knowing that we're going to be taking ownership likely of Allied. So that's why we put those in there specifically, knowing that's work we have to do next year.
Okay, and then the last few items are corresponding to revenue sources above. We've received our first payment for 600 East Michigan, and we'll be paying it out to the state this year. We haven't done that yet. We've had a little bit of a paperwork issue with the state on making that payment, but we're working that out. And then, so according to the schedule of payment, the payment will be about the same next year. And again, 615 Kalamazoo and Harrison Circle, we anticipate those closing out next year. So are there any questions on the operating budget? Okay. Just before we move on to the 243 revolving fund, I just want to say it's a lot bigger than this year's adopted budget. But the big thing is that there's just a lot more TIF revenue that we anticipate coming in and going out. So let me switch back to the slides. And go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah, this one, as I mentioned, is our local Brownfield revolving fund. It is much more simplified. So we have TIF capture in this, which looks like a much smaller portion of the revenues as a percentage, and then a very small amount of interest. And then we have that working capital that Marcy mentioned is essentially fund balance. So that's dollars that are sitting in the LBRF and dollars we continue to capture and put into that revolving fund, that the board then can make a decision year by year on what sort of projects you want to invest in. So that's there. I think on the expense side, what you see there in orange, 4%, design and planning funds, that's what we would like to bring to the Projects and Finance Committee next month and talk about some design and planning work that we as staff feel could be really valuable for the near north side, where the BRA owns that 12 or more 18 parcels, and that we've been talking about attracting development. Just this year, the city rezoned many of those parcels, maybe every single parcel, into Live Work 1 or Live Work 2 zoning district. And so we thought that maybe spending some funds in 2022 might be a good idea to have more of a vision for that area. And then just giving you all some more direction into how you might look at investment in that area. If we're going to ask for LBRF dollars to go into infrastructure and things in that area, that we'd have a bit more of a master, and I hesitate to say master plan because I don't think we're thinking about specific uses, but we're thinking about density in different areas. We have quite a few corner parcels and just kind of exploring that more in 2022. There are some other opportunities. We'll bring that list to the Projects and Finance Committee and look through those different opportunities where we could do some work in 2022. But we've started to build that in the budget in this draft. And then the available projects funds, Marcy, correct me if I'm wrong, but this looked like it was just all of the remaining fund balance. So it could be put into projects.
It is not the
if they
entire
come up.
amount of fund balance, but it's a large amount of it. Just trying to give freedom for things to happen in this fund next year if anything comes up. It's again, if no projects come up, if there's nothing spent out of it, it would remain in fund balance. And I can show you on, here we go. Your available fund balance is actually about $3.5 million. So you'll have, it would be, some of that is in some short-term investments right now and isn't immediately accessible. And so that's where I kept it to 2 million for what you'd be able to budget to bring forward for next year. Again, that's a pie in the sky number. You're not going to use that, but it seems silly not to make it available in case something came up. We do have some local tax capture that will be coming into the fund this year as part of the 5 years of capture after a project is fully reimbursed. We don't have any school tax capture that comes into the fund anymore. I should really get rid of that line item. We have again a small amount of interest on investments based on that fund balance, and then working capital would be what would be brought forward if needed to fund expenses. For actual expenses, you have one real expense account that would be budgeted for the 2 million. Out of that, like Jamie said, about 75,000 for planning for the near north properties to really thoroughly get a good picture of how money could be spent in that area. And then the other would be available for projects, and you can put more effort into defining those over the next month if you want, or leave it available and give yourself some freedom to be able to approve eligible projects. So this is your least detailed budget. It's also the one with the least amount of activity in a given year, but it's here if you need it. And we wanted to make sure you were aware of the extent of the ability you have to start investing in eligible expenses. Any questions on this budget? Okay, well, I'm gonna hand it back over to Jamie then, if she has any last thoughts about our budgets.
Yeah, as Vice Chair Novotny mentioned, there's no action this month on this item, but any feedback and any thoughts about the idea of pursuing one RFP next year, and perhaps doing some more planning in the north side neighborhood where the Brownfield owns a number of parcels, or other priorities, properties of, projects we have been working on. We're open to any of that feedback. We can have a discussion now. And if things come up in the coming weeks, please, feel free to share that. And we will be bringing some project ideas and some work to, again, that Projects and Finance Committee to talk about it in a little more detail.
Thanks. Good job, you guys. The budget looks great, and let's have a good year.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I appreciate the detail that you both went into on that item. Do we have any old business to cover today?
No old business at this time.
Okay, how about, are there any communications and or announcements from the board? All right, hearing none of those, do we have any staff updates?
I have one staff update. Working with Attorney Cherry, this week the BRA has been able to close on the sale of the property, 316 East North Street. That was to Plaza Corp for the 619 Porter project. Thank you to Chair Hess as well. I know he's been having to sign documents back and forth. So we appreciate his help on making sure that deal went through. Attorney Cherry, do you have anything to add?
No, I just want to echo thank you to Chair Hess. We got the documents. Well, I got the documents last minute, even though I called asked for all the documents. I got them the day of. And Chair Hess had to call him to see if he could sign those documents on the fly. He did. I appreciate that. Thanks. No, so we should have the check. It was overnight. It's not a whole heck of a lot of money, but that's not the point of these projects and stuff like that. So I will get that to you folks shortly once it comes to our office. So no, I appreciate working with all y'all. So thanks.
Thanks for coordinating, Rich.
Any other discussion on that or further updates to share? Okay, at this, oh, go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to quickly, Antonio, I don't know if you had any updates on like 140 Edwards or anything else you needed to share. Are we good?
We good because we got a meeting this afternoon, so I don't want to do any updates until I meet with. We got to meet with Plaza Corp this afternoon on 140 South Edward Street. We're waiting to do a press release until we have some more discussion on some things that could enhance the project this afternoon. So we'll have more information. You'll see more information coming out hopefully in the paper in the next couple of weeks, but definitely more information by the next board meeting this year.
We are to the point where we'd entertain any citizen comments from the general public. Do we have any comments that have come in?
There are no citizen comments at this time.
All right. Any director's comments? Anyone who would like to share? All right. Well, we have come to a close. So if there are any additional comments from anyone at this point in time, please make them. And if not,
thank you for taking over today.
no problem.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. So hearing none, we are adjourned. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy.